Welcome to our International Poetry and Translation event, hosted by Poetry at Tech, along with the School of Modern Languages and Atlanta Global Studies Center. So this is Poetry at Tech's last event of the year. How many of you have been to some of the other readings? Just raise your hand. Okay, oh, all of you, excellent. So you'll hear my spiel again. But we've worked really hard to plan this event, and the origin of this is we wanted to have the poet plus the translator, and that, as you can imagine, is always a difficult thing to wrangle, but we're so excited that everyone's here and they're all here in one piece. We hope you enjoy today's reading, and also we hope you come to tomorrow's panel, which starts at 11 a.m. My name is Victoria Chang, and I'm the Bourne Chair in Poetry and the Director of Poetry at Tech. So this is a long tradition of readings, which it sounds like most of you have been to them. So we've had over 300 people come through over the past 25 years. I also want to let you know that Poetry at Tech has recently launched our National Poetry Month activities. Have you seen those yard signs around? Raise your hand if you've seen poetry yard signs around. Awesome, good. So we're doing that, and we have book giveaways on Wednesdays on Skiles Walkway, and all throughout the month of April. So there are free books available, and we have some students reading poems on social media. A couple of them are here, our famous poets reading, and a new initiative this year which includes poetry on MARTA trains. So does anyone here ride MARTA kind of regularly or once in a while? Yeah, go look for the poetry, snap a photo and put it on social media. We collaborated with local Atlanta artists to create these really beautiful, I think, very colorful posters. So ride MARTA so you can look for poetry or let poetry find you. I'm going to read my quick etiquette spiel, which if you've been to these readings, you've heard it, so I'm just going to zip through it. So think of this space as you would a classroom setting, and just as you would leave in the middle of class, hopefully, you wouldn't just sort of get up here and anytime you want. So please be respectful to this space. We're going to end approximately in an hour. We have a few more readers than we normally do, but we hopefully will end maybe a tad over, if that's okay. And if you have an emergency, the restrooms are out there. There's restrooms up here and then one downstairs. So if you are clacking away joyfully because you have to do a write-up, just go sit in the back, please. And please, obviously, everyone keeps saying this, but it's so obvious, silence your cell phones, and please be present. And as I always say, we're such a future-oriented, goal-oriented community, right? Like, you're probably already thinking like what you're gonna do after this, or what you're gonna do this weekend, or what you're gonna do tomorrow. But just for now, be present here. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "Write it on your heart." I love that. Write it on your heart that every day is the best day in the year. So right here, right now, is the best moment in the best day in the year. I'm happy to introduce John Lyon, the chair of the School of Modern Languages, to say a few words about our event.
Thank you, Victoria. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Okay. I'm grateful that Poetry at Tech invited the School of Modern Languages and the Atlanta Global Studies Center to join them in planning this exciting event. It's been a real pleasure working together. I saw our engagement on this project as a part of Georgia Tech's goal to create globally minded innovators and problem solvers. One of the best ways to become globally minded is to get outside of your own language and to learn how others experience the world. And one of the most focused opportunities to do so is with poetry, an intensified mixture of language, thought, and experience. With our event today, we want to expose the Georgia Tech community to poetry in other languages, to the variety and richness of the cultures that these poets and their poetry represent, and to help us all become a bit more globally minded, as well as literarily minded, but we'll stick with the global part for now. We've invited poets who represent Cuban, Chinese, and Russian languages and cultures. We've also invited translators who facilitated publication of their works in English, who translated their works and helped them get published here. At the roundtable tomorrow, we'll spend more time discussing that special relationship between the poet and the translator. This evening, we're just going to hear the poetry. And so I would ask you to listen carefully as we hear poetry in languages we may not understand. What does the sound of the poetry convey when it's separated from its meaning? What can you pick up just from the tones themselves? And I'd ask you to listen carefully to the translations. How do you convey meaning when it is divorced from its original linguistic and oral contexts? And what does the interaction between the original poetry and its translation tell us about the interaction between another culture and our own? I believe that we're in for a real treat this evening, and I invite you to do the hard but rewarding work of listening and reading across linguistic and cultural divides. Thanks to our poets, our translators, and the team at Poetry at Tech for making this a reality. And we're just going to launch right into the program here with no further ado. You have the bios on your programs, and so I'm happy to introduce our first translation pair who will come up and read for us, Wang Yin, and please forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly, and Andrea Lingenfeld.
Years ago, I moved from Shanghai to New York. Before I left, I take the single student. Now when I book tour of US and Europe, I will pick up the student at local and top and against that one from Shanghai and see what happens. Today it's safe. Whenever I go, I will, as the student will go with me. The first poem. 巴黎已经令我心生厌倦，能请你把音乐关了吗？能让这屋子里只剩下黑暗吗？请让我闭上双眼，放过这些无助的夜晚，让我能够听得到你起伏的呼吸。下午的天空突然变暗。海面开始有了阴影，所以并不一定是在雨天，你才会在手心缓缓转动这只黑色的杯子。你需要同一种颜色，只是黑色，就像这药片的底色。你让我接受了我的脆弱。我明白你担忧的黑夜是什么颜色，是什么颜色？是这样的颜色吗？是这些吗？是吗？是吗？6月播种向日葵的季节，尼斯的向日葵还埋在地下。纽约的来信只有只言片语。原来7月才是开始。我远离祖国，远离盛夏，也远离了你。巴黎已经令我心生厌倦。
I've had enough of Paris. Can I ask you to turn off the music so that nothing is left in the room but darkness? Please let me close my eyes and let go of these helpless nights. Just let me listen to the rise and fall of your breathing. The afternoon sky turns suddenly dark. The surface of the sea suddenly in shadow. So it's not only on rainy days that you turn this black cup slowly in your hands. You need a color like that, black, like the inside of this pill. You let me accept my own weakness, and I understand the colors of your melancholy nights. What colors are they? These colors? Those colors? Are they? Are they? June, the season for sowing sunflower seeds. The sunflowers in Nice are still buried underground. A letter from New York is sparing in words. July turns out to be the beginning. I'm far from home, far from high summer, and far from you and Paris. I've had enough of Paris.
你偏爱冷僻的词语，你已经感觉不到痛了，你也已经感觉不到冷了，也开始偏爱冷僻的词语，偏爱低产，偏爱匀速，你偏爱气泡水，你偏爱旧书的气味，偏爱昏睡，而不是清醒。你偏爱用听不见的声音读一首诗，用铅笔在纸巾上写下难以辨认的字迹，就像无法复原的破碎梦境。你已经感觉不到痛了，你也已经感觉不到冷了。你偏爱的春天也有阵亡的花朵，它们延续了上一季的寒意。
You love obscure words. You no longer feel pain, and you no longer feel cold. You started to love obscure words, to love low output and a steady pace. You've come to love sparkling water and the smell of old books, to love deep sleep, though your mind is cloudy. You love to recite a poem in a voice too quiet to hear, to leave indecipherable traces of characters penciled on paper towels, like a broken dream that can't be retrieved. You no longer feel pain, and you no longer feel cold. Your beloved springtime sees its blossoms fall in battle as well. They carry the chill of the season that came before.
马，我的马在雨中独自回家，它的毛色像我遍布伤痕的右手。我的马双目微闭，迈着细步回家。我喝着酒，隔着酒馆的长窗，只能看到它瘦削的侧脸。它正在回家，像我沉默时一样低着头，但远比我像个绅士。而我要远行，两眼通红，坐在酒液乱流的桌旁，看着我的马在雨中独自回家。
Horse. My horse heads home alone in the rain, its coat the color of my scarred right hand. The eyes of my horse are half closed as it walks with small steps, heading home. Drinking wine beside the picture window of the wine shop, I see only its thin and bony silhouette. It's heading home, head lowered like mine when I'm silent, but so much more a gentleman than me. And I will travel far away, my eyes bloodshot, sitting at this table with its splashes of spilled wine, watching my horse head home alone in the rain.
秋天的气味，雨水落到嘴唇上，仿佛消毒药水在蔓延。刚刚浇筑过的柏油马路，水泥护栏 变得苍白干燥。焚烧树叶和报纸的烟味，沿着车厢内壁漂浮的面包芳香迎面而来。地狱和天堂的气味就是这样，只是一线之隔。树叶的气味，蛀虫的气味，猫贴近火炉，皮毛烤焦的气味，手指上的墨痕在竹篮里腐烂的水果皮，香水在河堤下流淌。这晚的天空挥发着酒精，明亮而坚韧的蛛网颤抖着横过街道。一根电话线通向我的城市社区的心脏，弥漫着煤气的臭味。雨水照亮的屋顶是唯一的来信，空巷映照着月光，秋天飘落的头发悄悄落到抽屉的深处。
The scent of autumn. Rain falls on my lips, spreads like disinfectant across a newly poured asphalt road. Cement railings turn pallid and dry. Smoke of burning leaves and newspapers. The scent of bread drifts along the interior wall of a train car to me. The smells of heaven and hell are just like this, divided by the thinnest line. The scent of books, the smell of bookworms. A cat presses close to a furnace, smell of scorched skin and fur. Ink stains on fingertips, rotten fruit peels in a banded basket. Perfume blows past the embankment, suddenly darkened skies vaporizing alcohol. Bright and resilient, a spider web bridging the river quakes. A phone line connecting the sea. The neighborhood's heart saturated with the stench of coal gas. A rooftop shining with rain is the only letter that arrives. Empty lane lit up in moonlight. Autumn's withered hair falls quietly into the recesses of a drawer.
说多了就是威胁，说多了就是威胁朋友，但是不要忘记笑，不要忘记毛病。总在车轮中，不要忽略难以避免的同行的忧伤，不要让破损的友谊像桌上的水迹那样消隐。说吧，保持无可替代的嫉妒，用这只手去征服另一只同样激烈的手。抛向空中的分币必须有正反两面。亲爱的朋友，说多了就是威胁，说对了就是死亡。
To say more would be risky. To say more would be risky, my friend, but don't forget to laugh. Don't forget the flaw is in the wheel. Don't neglect the inevitable grief of colleagues. Don't let damaged friendships fade away like traces of water on the tablecloth. Speak. Hold on to your irreplaceable hatred. Use this hand to conquer the other equally fierce one. A coin tossed into the air must have two sides. Dear friend, to say more would be risky. To speak the truth, that would be death.
飞往多雨的边境，飞往多雨的边境，波音757僵硬的姿态在飞行中获得休息。纸质的幻象和我并排坐着，观看一场2小时的电影。蓝色的空姐递上冰镇的可乐，果冻在锡箔纸里微微颤抖，机翼赤裸着骨头，宁静的引擎喋喋不休。我所不熟悉的风在舷窗外撕扯着什么，钉在水面上的钉子继承着忧虑和不安。我脚下的某处载货卡车满载着铁矿石，排成长长的行列。是子夜，也是凌晨，月亮向我们转身而去。不安的碗，精致闪亮的表面，满含怀乡的幸福。哭泣停止疼痛。这犹豫如此长久，几乎纠缠了我的一生。垃圾场上空的浮云，弯曲下垂的星辰，和我一起飞往多雨的边境。
Flying towards a borderland of rain. Flying towards a borderland of rain. The Boeing 757 in its rigid pose steals some rest in flight. Paper phantoms sit beside me, watching a 2-hour movie. The blue stewardess hands me an ice-cold cola. Jell-O quakes faintly in a foil cup. The wings expose their bones. Placid engines drone on, and unfamiliar winds outside the window tear things apart. Nails stuck to the water inherit our disquiet. Somewhere beneath my feet, trucks hauling loads of iron ore have been drawn. It's midnight, and it's nearly dawn. The moon turns its back on us and leaves troubled bowl, its fine surface brimming with homesick joy. Tears bring an end to pain. This endless ambivalence clings to me. It's plagued me nearly all my days. Drifting clouds above the junkyard, suspended stars twist and turn, along with me, flying towards a borderland of rain.
情人，我们到海上，亲爱的，岸上的灯火已经熄灭，海马的蹄声缓转悠扬。我们到海上，我打开你的盒子，把你撒下去，小块的你比粉末更慢，更慢的在水面上斜斜的落下去。我把你全都撒下去，你使海水微微发黄。你是海洋平静，如同你活着之时，午夜的雪降落在我展开的手上。我把天空给你，把海洋也给你，都给你，都给你。我把装你的盒子藏入怀中，我把我装入你的盒中，我在你的梦里。
Lover, we have reached the open sea, my love. The shore lights extinguished, seahorse flutes sweet and melting. We have reached the open sea. I open the urn, scatter you, little pieces of you, falling more slowly than powder, obliquely onto the water. I scatter all of you. You turn the sea faintly red. You calm the waters, just as when you were alive and midnight snows fell upon our open hands. I give you the sky, give you the sea. I give it all to you, all to you. I take the urn that held you, hold it to my breast. I put myself inside the urn that held you. I am now in your dreams.
Welcome, I'm Juan Carlos Rodriguez. I'm the co-director of the Atlanta Global Studies, and please help me welcome Cuban poet Reina Maria Rodriguez and the translator and poet Christine Dister. Thank you.
Por la invitación de Juan Carlos Rodríguez, de Victoria, que se han preocupado por algo tan importante como no solo la poesía, sino la traducción, que es algo verdaderamente casi menospreciado en muchos lugares. Voy a leer unos poemas del libro viejito que está escrito en La Habana, donde yo viví toda la vida hasta un tiempo atrás, hace unos años que vivo en Florida. Del libro Luciérnagas, verde y azul. Clasificando de nuevo estos verdes, aquellos azules y verdes de Virginia, tío vivos que renacen, otra lancha, su espuma desigual. Los afilados dedos de cristal cuelgan hacia abajo, hacia la insensatez, hacia la intemperie. Desenfreno de querer cortar un límite, una apariencia por la que todos pasamos al final, un horizonte como obediencia, no como destino. Esta prueba falsa de morir de una manera u otra, sin rumbo, aburridamente, llamando la experiencia a la desesperación, donde el verde suyo queda totalmente excluido.
So she opened with thank you, including to Juan Carlos and to Victoria for organizing this, and talked about the importance of having such an event, including not only poetry but the translation as well. And she mentioned that this is from a book that she wrote years ago in Havana. Most of her books were written in Havana, although more recently she's been living in Florida. This one is called Green and Blue, and it's from a book that's called Luciérnagas. And it ties into something that if you are looking at this book, which I understand people have on campus, there's something I comment on in the translator's afterword, which is that she reads a lot of international writing. So she has read a lot from Virginia Woolf, and there's actually a line. Any Virginia Woolf fans out there? Okay. Guess what line is actually by Virginia Woolf as I read? Green and blue. Classifying those greens again, those blues and greens from Virginia, carousels that start back up, another motorboat, its wake uneven. The ported fingers of glass hang downwards, toward stupidity, toward exposure. Licentiousness of wanting to cut a boundary, an appearance through which we all pass in the end. A horizon as obedience, not as destiny. This false proof of dying, one way or another, without a course, monotonously. Giving the name of experience to the desperation whose green has been swept completely out.
Un libro que se llama El Piano. Un libro que se llama El Piano. Para ti, mi hija, elegiste azul. Azul es el color de la verdad, dice la niña. Es un color antiguo, dice la madre que se aleja al fondo del espejo, donde pretende quedar resguardada de la realidad. Por mucho tiempo el techo fue azul pálido, engañándonos con ser un cielo vulgar, un rascacielos, una felicidad. Darte un techo celeste no fue suficiente. Estoy deshecha. Cada color me ha prometido un recuerdo que se va. Estaré el tiempo máximo sin verte y desde ahora sé que no podré soportarlo. Es tu vida que te lleva por delante a la mía, sin recordar cuando fuimos una misma cosa tejida, apretujada, como el anillo que esos pájaros da como símbolo, porque hay bichos que aman el azul más que los humanos. Por eso te recordaré en la piedra del dedo bajo el agua, piedra lunar, cuando mire agua, petróleo, turquesa, recostada sobre el muro, buscándote en otras muchachas azules. ¿Qué más te puedo pedir? Una cinta de pelo que guardaré bajo la almohada y te se agrietará. Azul es el color de la mentira, digo ahora, cuando aprendí que los colores irradian despedidas. El tejido se zafa nuevamente contra la espuma, desatando.
This is a poem that's dedicated to her daughter Elise, who's the youngest of her children. And if you've read about Reina a little bit, you may have read she's very associated with a specific apartment building in Havana, and they built a house illegally on top of the roof. So you can hear a little bit of that in the poem. But also, it's a poem about transnational family life. Cuba is one of many nations that has experienced a great deal of immigration in the 21st century. And this poem may have extra resonance for anyone who's lived with a separated family. You chose blue for Elise. Blue is the color of truth, says the little girl. It's an ancient color, says the mother, who moves off deep into the mirror where she tries to remain shielded from reality. The roof was pale blue for a long time, deceiving us about being a common sky, a skyscraper, a form of happiness. Giving you a celestial blue roof wasn't enough. I am undone. Every color promised me a memory that leaves. I will go the maximum time without seeing you, and from this point forward, I know I can't bear it. It is your life that carries you far ahead of mine without recalling when we were one and the same woven thing, pressed together, like the ring that bird gives as a symbol, because some creatures love blue more than people do. So I will remember you in the stone on my finger underwater, moonstone, when I look at aqua, petroleum, turquoise, leaning against the wall, seeking you in other blue girls. What more can I ask of you? A hair ribbon that I'll keep under my pillow and it will fall apart. Blue is the color of lies, I say, now that I realize colors irradiate farewells. The weave detaches once more as it counters the foam, letting you go.
Bueno, como verán, este texto fue trabajado el día de hoy, es un texto de mucho tiempo, un libro que se llama Variedades de Galeano, que Cris ha traducido y hoy pasamos el día mejorándolo. O sea, yo creo que siempre eso es lo importante, ¿no? El trabajo de la traducción que puede ir en proceso y mejorar un texto, ¿no?
So this text underwent a substantial overhaul today, which is why she waved it at you, so you could see all the changes that were made. So if any of you think that as a translator you're working with an original text that is static and unchanging and forever the same, good luck, because this is what writers do the day of your reading.
No, con mucha dificultad. Todo, le cambiamos el título, todo es humo.
Even the title was there.
Pero bueno, mucho. Algo distinto de la vida pasa dentro de mí cuando el sonido del camión que fumiga adelanta su entrada con una sirena que penetra por los recovecos antes de que amanezca. Los gorriones sospechan y se esconden en los huecos que han quedado después de la caída de paredes y balcones. Sube el humo y con él el sonido avanza recordando una guerra que no ha sucedido, o tal vez sí. Ella mira por la endija de una contraventana y se horroriza. El humo inunda su privacidad, los sueños. Ve cómo envuelve los tejados, las casas, los tanques y respiraderos, y el contorno se vuelve silueta y complicidad, porque aquí todo es humo. Y ella quiere huir de ese miedo a la asfixia, de ese dolor circular que la envuelve desde la infancia. Sabe que todo puede volverse aún más inanimado y tiembla. Perder la perspectiva de una existencia real, de un pasado, es un ataque. Primero la sirena que avisa, segundos después el deslizarse sigiloso del camión cisterna que no ha visto, solo lo siente desde lo alto, en la sangre, en los huesos. El asfalto cruje bajo la goma caliente, se hincha y revienta. Un día podrían echar un gas equivocado, los gorriones lo saben y ella también lo sospecha, y terminar envenenados por un gas enemigo, porque el enemigo nunca se sabe de dónde está, piensa, pero a veces tiene la sensación de que más que una protección o una defensa contra la epidemia, le están avisando algo tenebroso que podría sucederle si sale del límite del balcón, si se sobrepasa y abre la puerta.
So you can decide what else this text is about, but you need to know, if you haven't been to Cuba or somewhere with a similar system, that in order to limit the kinds of mosquitoes breeding that produces things like dengue, outbreaks of fever, they have fumigation trucks that periodically drive around the city. It's all just smoke. Something other than life takes place inside me when the sound of the fumigation truck precedes its entry with its siren, which penetrates crevices before dawn. The sparrows suspect and hide inside the holes left by collapsed walls and balconies. The smoke rises, and with it the sound advances, recalling some war that has not happened, or maybe it has. She peers through the slit in the shutter and feels horror. Smoke floods her privacy, floods dreams. She watches how it envelops the tile roofs, the houses, the water tanks, and air vents. All contour turns to silhouette and complicity. because here it's all just smoke, and she wants to jump up and flee the fear of asphyxiation, the circular sorrow that has enveloped her since childhood. She knows that everything can become still less alive and shivers, losing perspective on a real existence, on a past. It's an attack. First the siren that gives notice, seconds later the stealthy glide of the cistern truck, which she has not seen. She only senses it from above, in her blood, in her bones. The asphalt squeaks under hot rubber, it swells and bursts. One day they could spray the wrong gas. The swallows now, she suspects too, and they could end up poisoned by an enemy gas because, quote, you never know where the enemy is, she thinks. But sometimes she has the sensation that more than any protection or defense against epidemic, they are warning of something sinister that could happen to her if she breaches the bounds represented by the balcony, if she oversteps and opens the doors.
Voy a leer si puedo para terminar de un libro que se llama Cortar las muñecas. Que tiene la suerte de que pude tener fotos de muñecas que un amigo me dio, que colecciona muñecas, entonces pude salir el libro con todas las fotos bastante terribles de muñecas, ¿no? Se llama El éxito. De todo lo que ha pasado, la explicación es lo peor que ha pasado. Una madre no es un día para ir a la tienda. Una madre tose, se resfría y pregunta cosas que nunca responderás. Es así esta cadena desleal. Toqué sus dedos tan delgados despidiéndome, pero en mi cabeza aún sigues joven, bañándote en el mar, con la truza negra y amarilla, llenita de flores rojas sobre el vientre. Lo peor de todo es explicar lo que dimos o lo que no pudimos dar, lo que está inhabitado y se protege sin más explicación. Siento su voz llamándome cuando desde la ventanilla la veo jugar entre olas que pronto no volverán, aunque la resaca la traiga con el plato de sopa a la escalera o el dinerito de un vuelto que me presta y nunca devolveré, con el mapa de un retazo que sobró, aunque no alcance esta vez al estirarlo más para que la blusa caiga ranglán sobre la necesidad del hombro, sus botones cosidos uno encima de otros, reafirmando con hilo naranja lo que no puede ver. Alguien está tocando el piano y alguien se detiene junto a él. Es ella, la que cosió vestidos interminables como teclas sobre acordes finitos. Soy yo, la que dice poemas que no son suficientes para dar una explicación que no sea baratija. Un vestido, un color, un botón, el rastro, el trapi, rojo, blanco y azul, que nosotras llamábamos el éxito, y no le decíamos a nadie dónde quedaba para ser cómplices y dueñas del misterio. Un beso ladeado se resbala de la mejilla, sale a la carretera y se dispersa hacia el retrovisor que marca la inocencia de una vida donde nos creíamos inteligentes. Esos fueron nuestros viajes y nuestras desavenencias. Voy a morirme sin ti, como ella morirá sin mí. Está escrito en el sueño con zapatos viejos, es el destino, una repetición de la mano abierta con sus finas líneas controversiales. Si volviera a nacer, a tener una hija y una madre, pediría que fueran ustedes. Les diría lo que no está explicado en la explicación frente a la puerta de salida, donde uno no sabe ni dice cuánto puede dar ni merecer.
So she mentioned that the poem we're going to finish with appeared in this book that was published in Canada. It was actually a collaboration with someone who photographed a doll collection, so she pointed out the dolls can be a little dark and creepy. The poem, rather less so in this case, but check out the whole book and see what you think. This particular poem is also something of a companion to material in this book because it focuses on the figure of her mother. And her mother worked as a dressmaker, so you can hear a bit of that in this piece. Success. 1. Of all that has come to pass, explanation was the worst. A mother is not a day for going shopping. A mother coughs, catches cold, and asks questions to which you will never respond. That's how this sequence works. It is disloyal. I touch her fingers so thin, waving goodbye to me. But in my head, you're still a young woman in the sea wearing underclothes, black and yellow ones, belly spread with red flowers. The worst of all is explaining what we gave, or what we couldn't give, a thing uninhabited, which protects itself with no further explanation. 2. I hear her voice calling me, when through the window I see her playing in waves that soon will not return, even if the undertow brings her to the stairwell with the soup bowl, or gives back all the money she loans me, which I will never return, which with the map of cloth left over, even if this time I can't stretch it any farther, can't get the blouse to fall, the raglan over her shoulders need, buttons sewn, some above others, reasserting something in orange thread that she can't see. 3. Someone plays the piano, and next to him, someone pauses. It's her, the woman who sewed dresses, never-ending as keyboards over finite chords. It's me, the woman who made poems, inadequate for giving any explanation but the cheapest. One dress, one color, one button. The Trail, secondhand store called Red, White, and Blue, which we women used to call success. And we wouldn't tell anyone where it was so we could be complicit and keepers of mystery. 4. A tilted kiss slips off one cheek, heads for the highway, and veers toward the side mirror, marking innocence from the time in a life when we believed ourselves intelligent. Those were our voyages and our discords. I will die without you, as she will die without me. It's written in the dream of old shoes. It's the destination, a repetition of the hand, open with its fine, controversial lines. If I were born again to have a daughter and a mother, I would ask for them to be you both. I would tell them what is not explained and the explanation at the exit door, where one neither knows nor says how much one can give or deserve. Thank you all.
Following the script, sorry. We'll now hear from our next reader, and sorry about that. We'll hear from Florina Barskova and Catherine. Excuse me for pronouncing this incorrectly. Is it Chipella? Catherine is very generous and understanding and gracious. Thank you. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Atlanta, for having us. It's an honor. Thank you, Victoria, and all the organizers. Is it? Yeah. So, being in this city, which saw its share of difficulties, I want to start with a poem about shares of difficulties of another city, of Petersburg, where I'm from. When walking here, I thought, how could I explain my relationship to it? And at this point, it says following. I think I made love to this city so much that now it doesn't want me anymore, which is a lesson for you all. Doesn't want me for whatever political reasons. But the poem that I will read is not about politics. It's about our relationship with beauty. It's called a shipwreck. Крушение. Фрау Мария наткнулась на скалы и скоро станет добычей великого серого моря, бочки сельдей, бесконечные свитки материй синих и белых, и кофе в мешках, и иное. Все станет морем. И в тубусах медных владенья жадной и нежной, и хищной, и хитрой царицы. В тубусах медных, заботливо воском залитых, тонет Терборг, тонет Дау, и Поттер, и Мецю. Бочки сельдей, безупречные рульки материй, кофе в мешках. На полотнах всесильных голландцев, хитрых и нежных, и хищных, и жадных до амстердамских деньжищ, и тюльпанов, и лести, но превыше всего до голландского бедного света. Света, что льется рассветную млечной струёю, света, что мечется грозной ночною землею, света, что волосы девы роняют на деньги, что кавалер ей дает пересчитывать, саблю снимая. Весь этот свет, все его преломления, все споры, стоны завистников, заказчиков, прикосновения тонут, уходят во тьму, покидают мир взора и взгляда, внимания, желания, сцепления, света картины и света в нетопленной зале утра дворца, по которому движется дива в шелковом блеклом наряде, в меху самовитом, в сопровождении сонных левреток и фрейлин. В сопровождении недавно прижитого друга в облаке ледяном из бриллиантовых пуговиц. Нет, никогда уж, напрасно. Будут еще посылать экспедиции к молу, вглядываться через лед. Не они ли? Они же, старцы и старицы, медики и попугаи, устрицы, ящерки, ив, сырые горожане, жены их, дети, их комнаты яркой толпою, все отступает, как войско во тьму ледяную, в слой тишины и безвидности. Памяти разве?
Shipwreck, October 3, 1771. The Frau Maria ran onto the rocks, and soon thereafter the majestic gray sea acquired casks of herring, infinite spools of fabric, dark blue, white, sacks of coffee beans and such, all went the way of the sea. Nestled in copper tubes, property of the covetous, amorous, carnivorous, conniving Tsarina. Copper tubes solicitously coated in wax. Terborg sinks, Doe sinks, and Potter and Metsu. Casks of herring, pristine spools of fabric, sacks of coffee beans. On canvases by the omnipotent Dutch. Conniving, amorous, carnivorous, and covetous, greedy for Amsterdam lucre and tulips and flattery, and above all, Holland's indistinct light. Light that flows in a milky stream at dawn, light that thrashes in a storming midnight world, light the girl's hair throws on the coins her cavalier lets her count as he's taking off his sword. All that light, its refractions, all those disputes, the bitters, angst, the seller's pitch, go down, sink into the dark, abandon the world of the gaze. Flirting, fainting, beckoning, desiring, claiming the painting's light, the light in the morning palace, the chill corridor down which the diva moves, in faded silk, under custom furs, attended by drowsy servants and fräuleins, by her latest paramour wrapped in an icy cloud of diamond buttons. Not a chance now, not ever, with no chance of success, will they send expeditions to the breakwater to peer through the ice. Where are they? They are there, the aging men, ancient women, medics, parrots, oysters, lizards, Joe, spreads of cheeses, burgers, wives of burgers, their children, their rooms. In a brilliant throng, all retreat like an army division into the icy murk, into the stratum of no sound, no sight, of memory, maybe.
The book of mine that is so generously is being given today as a gift is also about life and disasters of this museum, Hermitage, the Winter Palace in Petersburg. It's my attempts at prose in relationship to the museum. But this poem, in retelling, is a reaction and total shock to the moment when I found out that the actual collection of Hermitage, with which I grew up and everybody I know grew up, is the B choice. Because the original collection, all of it sank in the Northern Sea. So, poem from the point of view of the herring. And also as a gesture of gratitude for doing justice to this craft of bringing poetry through language, which is actually, as we know, a task almost impossible. And this is why it's so exciting. And this is why relationships that you see now in front of you with poets and translators together, they, in my life experience, are some of the most intimate and complicated relationships out there. When two people touch language together but variously. So I'll read now a poem that is dedicated to Catherine Sipello about this endless, blissful but indeed frustrating frustration of relationship in a poem. It's called Schwestersprache, which is not Russian. Language of sisters, sister language. Пока ты спала, начался снегопад, все стало садом седым. Для хищного зрения скудный обед, глаза замутняющий дым молчащих людей и молчащих вещей, застигнутых снегом в пути. Вощеной бумагой ты стала тереть и палочкой острой скрести. А вот проступили по снегу бугры, упрямые формы, хребты, облизаны жидким азотом миры, родящие новое ты. Ну, тыкайся, тыкайся в брешь в белизне, где новый вмещается цвет, как тычется прежде любовник во сне, в защитное новое нет, но снег засыпает, и сумерки жжет дыханье, и можно прочесть, как крови подобно по венам бежит неверная, вольная весть.
The translator. While you slept, the snowfall began. The world turned Sodom and monotone. Slim pickings for prowling vision, a smoke fogging the eyes of silent people and silent things caught mid-course by the snow. You started in wiping the wax layer, etching it with a pointed stick. Then mounds rippled across the snow, stubborn forms, spines, worlds licked by liquid nitrogen spawning another you. So push into the gap in whiteness where a new color will go, like a forelover invades a dream past a new resisting no. Snow sifts and shadows burn, my breath grows legible, and I feel your words, untrue and free, run through my veins like blood.
And now the last poem, which is one of my favorite things to say in life, this phrase. Now is the last poem. Because it's like, it creates this moment of simultaneously relief and regret, both in the one who reads and the one who listens. And we're running out of time, which is also an exciting and also something that makes me to think about our hostess, Victoria, who for me, among the other things, is a strange teacher of precision and making sure that people don't run out of time. But of course they do. They do. They always do, Victoria. So this is a poem about belatedness and to some extent running out of time. This is also a great challenge for me, and because again, you are listening to poetry in Chinese and Spanish and in Russian. Russian poetry is always extremely gloomy and pompous and speaks about things nobody understands, and like, so at some point I decided that it will be changed, and I wrote a poem about tomatoes, which is, I think, as you'll hear from Kathy's voice, is nevertheless pompous and gloomy. Наконец определились в ярком воздухе помидоры. Помидоры и подсолнухи. Вот сейчас сентябрь-дидактик вскрикнет розги и все взорвется едким соком на траву, но пока как будто задержал дыхание Бог вещей, и колыханье, полыханье не прекращаются, и длится раннее умирание. О да, еще живу. Это точечка невидная, касание между осенью и летом, слаще сладкого. Знаешь, вот оно начнется, угасание станет все тогда недвижно, одинаково, но пока напряжено вокруг и замерло вращение частиц. Алло, оранжево, изумрудно, буро, перед тем, как замертво, дышит успокоенное заживо. все сполна. Наросты, тени, линии, вкус и запах, но не вонь еще, дыхание. Травы черные, коричневые, синие, ветра с неба, ускорение, содрогание. Как только эта видимость исполнится, и как только расстояние нарушится, все падет. Ты знаешь, что запомнится? Паутина, оскорбительное кружевце, помидор, незаживающая трещина. Полминуты в предвкушении дыма, ужаса. Все далось мне, а ведь не было обещано.
Tomatoes and sunflowers. Finally, in the bright air, the tomatoes have reached their peak. The tomatoes and sunflowers. Soon they'll be caned by September's school teacher and explode in tart juices across the grass. For now, it's as though the god of things held his breath, and the rocking, the flaring won't quit, and the beginning of dying drags on and on. It's too soon to bury me. That invisible cusp where summertime touches autumn, sweeter than anything. When you know it's started, the dimming down, and the world will go motionless, monotone. But for now, it's tensed, and commingling elements, scarlet, orange, emerald, copper, go quiet, gasp on the verge of a dead faint at this final resting place. Brimming, branches, shadows, lineaments, flavor, and scent not quite stench, just exhaling. Grasses black, brown, blue, then down from the sky a gust. There's a rush, shuddering. But as soon as the picture completes itself and perspective shrinks to zero, everything collapses. You know what will stay with me? The spider web, its dire embroidery. The tomato, the crack that won't close again, half-minute foretaste of ashes, calamity. I was given it all, none of it promised me.
Thank you.